he's hiding all of these immigrants, these illegal, right? And he says to Bob, yeah, I've got a little Latino Harriet Tubman situation going on. Welcome to the Your Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
How's it going tonight, Dan?
It's good. We're rolling on with the Oh Brother Oscar-nominated films of 2025, I guess you would say. But
have you noticed, in a year where we have had so many, movies tank, for lack of a better word, that we're seeing some really good stuff here?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. So it's interesting that you would bring that up because, yeah, I think I said it on a previous episode, we've been kind of, moaning and whining about the state of the box office and just the films that have been out there and the ones that probably should have done well but didn't. And here we are. I feel like, we're delving into the best of them, I guess, hence why they are nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, although that's not always the litmus test either.
It's not. No.
But some of these I had seen. I remember as soon as I saw this film, One Battle After Another, I was instantly singing its praise.
Yeah, we did I would call it a first look about 10 months ago, but it was under another name. We were doing this series called Trailer Talk, which I still stand by that concept, but it wasn't doing too much for the engagement. So we scrapped that, went back to the first looks, but with the Oh Brother podcast. But we did one 10 months ago, and it's weird because there was times when I thought, did we review this already or did we not? But I think it's because we've been talking about it for so long now. It came out last September, and it's actually been on streaming on HBO Max since like mid-December. And here we are in February 2026, just covering it now. But again, on the run up to the Oscars in mid-March, we're trying to get all of the films reviewed by that time. And I have to just say, quick note, look, we've talked about this too, by the way, but the cost of these digital rentals
Crazy.
It's kind of crazy in the sense that, well, I might as well just buy it. But then I don't want to be stuck having a film in my collection that I may or may not go back and rewatch,
Right.
Now,
Right.
This is P.T. Anderson, Paul Thomas Anderson. I was trying to watch There Will Be Blood because I haven't seen that for quite a long time. I told you all I could find was a Spanish version on Pluto TV, which, I've been studying my Spanish for quite some time now, but it wasn't quite enough to want to sit and watch it in Spanish from start to finish. But then I started watching Boogie Nights. I haven't gotten through that yet. I've never seen that, as you know, so I'm trying to get through that as another Paul Thomas Anderson film.
And my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson film is Hard Eight.
Oh,
which was his first film.
See, I forgot about that, as well as Phantom Thread, certainly more recent, like 2017. I forgot that was Paul Thomas Anderson as well. So
yeah.
But this film, this is another great one. I mean, we just did a review on Begonia. We had done F1, and what else? What else did we do? We did another one of them.
Sinners.
Well, we did Sinners. Yeah, we did that a while back, but yeah, we covered that one already. And maybe that's what I'm thinking of. But this one, another great film. I mean, I've seen it twice already, and kind of diving into as much as I could of sort of the making of and watching various interviews with the cast and the crew and so forth. And so I'm excited to talk about this one.
Yeah, and we don't talk about movies that we're going to review until we record.
That's
Although
true.
I did say, like, you surprisingly tipped your hand to me right away. You were like, that's the best movie I've seen this year.
You're right. I did. I couldn't hold back. I said to you, we were talking on the phone, and I said, if this doesn't, and maybe I said it when we did the F1 review, but if this doesn't win, I would be shocked. But then that was prior to seeing Begonia, and now going back and talking about Sinners, but that goes back to your original point at the top of the episode, which is we've actually gotten some very good films this year or
Yeah.
last year, right?
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting.
And
And this
he
go ahead.
always delivers for me, Paul Thomas Anderson,
Yeah.
but he's not recognized for a lot of his work. There Will Be Blood didn't win anything other than Best Actor,
Mhm.
which,
Well, that's a
that
pretty
was
big achievement, but
yeah, that was a given.
right.
Um, but Licorice Pizza, which is
That's right.
also him,
Yes, I've
and
seen that.
he did that did well. And I'm surprised with all those other films we just mentioned that that would be the one to get recognition.
Yeah, it's also surprising this is the first P.T. Anderson, review that we've done.
Is it really?
Yeah, we've not covered any of his films
Wow.
on the podcast before,
I'm
so
surprised.
we've gotta change that for sure, but so okay, so P.T. Anderson, now this is I certainly didn't realize it, and you could if you've seen the film or whether you've seen it or not, and I certainly would recommend right up top that you see this film. It's streaming on HBO Max right now, but this is something that you could easily say Paul Thomas Anderson wrote this about a year and a half ago, and just filmed it, put it out. Right? It's like art imitating life in terms of a lot of what's going on in the real world, and
However,
yet he's been toiling over this idea for
okay,
nearly 20 years.
that's what I was gonna say. It's been a 20-year lead up to get to this point. And when we interviewed the, Fat Man brothers, the Nelms brothers.
Is that what the moniker they're going to go by now? Sorry, Ian and Esham. It's the Fat Man Brothers. You might want to clean
I
that
was
up a little
thinking of
bit
the
in post.
movie but remember, Ian spent 15 years on that script, and so we get these stories once in a while, and, it's little tweaks here and there, and also history as far as One Battle After Another kind of plays into it as well.
Yeah, it's he said something very prophetic in an interview that I saw with he and the cast, the primary cast. And we'll get into that a little bit here too and talk about because it's a stunning cast as well, and a newcomer to the scene who just was spectacular in the film Chase Infiniti. But he said he was asked about the fact that he'd been working on the idea for a long time and why it took him to get to this point, and hadn't worked with Leo before. They came close on Boogie Nights. That
Right.
was originally
Leo
going to be
turned it down.
no, he didn't turn it down. Well, in the sense that it was a scheduling thing. It had nothing to do with
Yeah,
turning
well,
it
he
down.
had to pick between Titanic and
Correct.
that.
Right. Right. And I wonder if he would make the same decision having gone back, but he did pretty
Well, he
well by the
says
Titanic.
in an interview I saw, he said that's his biggest regret.
Biggest regret, yeah.
Yeah.
But he basically what P.T. Anderson said was perhaps I was waiting for these people to come together. This very kind of cosmic sort of thing. And he meant it genuinely. It's just the universe kind of doing its thing. And
And
so,
everybody fits their role so well.
yeah, yeah. You got Leo, obviously, Sean Penn, who is just great in the film.
Now, do you remember when we did the trailer look or whatever it was called? we Sean Penn was like a glimpse. We saw his face and that was it. And I
Yeah.
remember saying to you,
Mhm.
I don't know if Sean Penn's in it that much.
I
They didn't really
vaguely
show
remember
him.
that. Yeah, I do kind of remember that. So Sean Penn plays a character named Sergeant Lockjaw. It's a perfect name. Now, Teyana Taylor, we were talking about her because we did an episode just recently on The Rip with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. And of course, she was in The Rip. And I enjoyed her in The Rip. And I remember saying something about, I hadn't really been familiar with her, but sure enough, she's she's been in the business, very talented dancer, choreographer,
And she's a musician as well.
producer. Yes. And so, again, I just wasn't familiar with her, but she definitely had street cred already before coming to that role. She's great in this as Perfidia Beverly Hills, another great character name. Benicio del Toro, Regina Hall, and then Chase Infiniti, we mentioned, who this is her first feature film. She was in this series, what, Presumed Innocent with Jake Gyllenhaal, is I think the
Right.
only other thing that she's been in. But man, is she good in this film. Wow.
And she plays Willa, who is 16 years old in the film. Do you know how old she is in real life?
Well, right now, I think she's like 18, right?
She's 24.
Is she really?
Yeah, I was shocked.
I have to look that up.
I was
I don't
totally
believe that.
shocked.
Yeah, I don't believe that. Really?
You know, rarely can you get somebody, that's 24 to play 16. You often see people 16 playing 24, but the other way around is a
Yeah.
little tough.
Yeah, you got me like
And not trusting me at all.
I'm not, I have to say, because I
Look it
felt
up.
like, let's see, she was okay, Mike. Actually, she's 25.
Yeah,
Gonna be 26 in May. Okay. Well, I stand corrected.
don't second guess the master here.
That's yeah, she has a very well, I mean, she's 25. She's still a youngster,
Right. But
she's
she
got a
looks 16.
much more youthful look for sure. It's interesting. She went through a lot of sort of chemistry interviews and things like that with Paul Thomas Anderson and Leo and so forth. And one story is that I guess Paul Thomas Anderson had her shave Leonardo DiCaprio because they weren't quite sure how they wanted his facial hair to look. And so PTA was like, go ahead and just shave him. Of course, she was super nervous doing it. But it was also just part of kind of getting to know each other and sort of, that whole kind of thing. She
Are
and
you going to give
PTA
us
did
the synopsis of this film?
yeah, I was going to say that they also like took a karate class together to sort of get to know each other. It's kind of interesting.
Interesting.
His approach to that. Well, yeah, that's why. Are you don't feel capable of giving it? Is that why you're giving it to me?
No, I figured you'd probably have
'Cause
like the IMDb, which is a lot more
Yeah.
succinct than I would be.
Well, it's simply when their enemy resurfaces after 16 years, ex-revolutionaries reunite to rescue the daughter of one of their own. That's the basic plot.
Okay. Yeah,
Per
that doesn't give
IMDb.
you a lot.
No, and it doesn't really give anything away. But yeah, there's this group. They call themselves the French 75.
Right. They're mercenaries, basically, political.
Revolutionaries. I think
Yeah,
mercenaries.
revolutionaries.
Mercenaries, you're talking, hits and murder and
Yeah,
so forth.
yeah. Although that does happen in the
Mhm.
bank.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but yeah, perhaps. Right. There's a Mike giving spoilers. Mike, not usually
Well,
giving
it's
spoilers.
so early in the film.
Yeah,
I don't.
It's not
If
a
it's like in the
significant,
first 5 minutes, I don't.
not a
consider it
significant plot
spoiler.
point. So yeah, there's the synopsis. Now we also talked about with Begonia bringing back VistaVision there's another one. with
Here it is
VistaVision.
again.
Yes, and there's a great behind the scenes featurette. You can find it on YouTube because good luck finding it on like the digital, streaming version of the film.
And the physical, that's why you would see it behind me, except for the fact it's a bare bones release.
Mhm.
And I can't believe that. Can't
Well, there's got to be
believe it.
there's got to be something up with that.
Yeah, there's probably a criterion in the works.
But VistaVision again, as we talked about with Begonia, just striking imagery in terms of the colors and just how vibrant it looks. But again, what you're seeing on screen, right? The amount of the image that you're getting on screen. So there's so many different sequences that we could point out. Some of them are sort of kind of very, mundane or banal or whatever, just kind of throwaway scenes. But the look of the sequence is just so stunning. There's one where Sean Penn and this other character are having a dialogue, and then they walk away from each other, and they're in this like desert canyon location. And it's just the expansiveness of
Right.
the image is so striking. It's really phenomenal. So, do you think, Mike, this is going to start to become something we see more and more as a way to find a resurgence at the box office from filmmakers.
I don't know, because I there's a 3rd film that also used VistaVision, and I'm just blanking on what it was this year. That's pretty unusual to get 3 films using a format that's relatively not been used
For
over the
many
last
years.
25 years.
Right, right. And in that featurette, like we talked about with the Begonia review, you see the rig in the way the camera is situated with the magazines horizontally. And it's a crazy, I mean, it's just so massive, this thing. And
And
they shot some sequences, Mike, like to jump ahead a little bit. This film has arguably one of the best car chase sequences in any film I've ever seen, and yet it's very non-traditional in terms of car chase sequences, wouldn't you say?
yes, and I don't know if you saw Paul Thomas Anderson talking about it. He hated searching locations for that. And his influence was Bullitt with Steve McQueen.
Sure. Yeah.
And of course, whenever you talk about car chases, everybody brings up the French Connection.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Although
was thinking.
this had a unique look to it, and I guess it was a place called the River of Hills is
Mhm,
where they shot it.
mhm,
And
and
if you see the sequence, you'll know why.
that's a fitting description, yes. And this division has a lot to do with and again, these rigs that they put on the cars, the editing, we should this is for those that are cinephiles or people looking to get into filmmaking, that sequence is a great example of you've got the acting, you've got incredible editing that the editing team should win an award for that sequence alone. I'm not sure if they're nominated for it. I didn't look that up, but and Johnny Greenwood's composition that's playing during that sequence is just so spectacular. I loved it.
Now, you bring up, will we see this division? My fear, and I was kind of shocked, and we talked about this again in the first look. The
Mm,
budget of this film was 130 million. Now, the best film, the best producing money film for Paul Thomas Anderson was Will There Be Blood? That did what, 70, 75?
or There Will Be Blood. One of the two.
What did I say?
Will there be blood? It's like the total opposite of the film. It's like, yeah, there will be blood.
So for the for I forget what label this is on, but whoever made the film had to look at that and say, "Look at this guy's never done a film as great as his films are. His best film did 75 million. Let's give him 130."
But how are you tying that
Is
into
that
a
going to keep happening?
well, but what's that got to do with VistaVision?
Because of the expense. You talked about the rigs, and it's got to be a very expensive format to
Yeah.
shoot in.
Well, that's interesting. Yes, because right, that's actually a good point between if you think of this film, One Battle, and then Begonia, these are not record-breaking Avatar
No,
level, right? So that is interesting, but it's a commitment to the craft, and
I
that
agree.
would get me to go back to the box office, right? If I knew I'm gonna continue to get this kinda quality, from the image and frankly, the story, right? It has a lot to do with influencing the story too. It's kind of like an additional character in the film, this VistaVision.
But,
It's really remarkable.
they didn't really advertise it. So even somebody like us that's, knows what that is,
Yeah.
John Q. Public, I don't think if you say filmed in VistaVision,
No,
they
no,
used to
not
do that all the time. Filmed in, Panavision or
not when you're watching
Panoramic.
when you're watching movies now on your iPad or on these, does anybody really care about that? So yeah, that's a good point to make. The cost involved, but I don't know. I think it's something to keep an eye on because it really drove home several of the sequences, and it's not, there's different lenses they're using throughout, and it's not like it's one big sort of like wide shot throughout the film. I mean, they're mixing it up. It's quite diverse in
Right.
its look. Um, Now this one's pretty highly rated, Mike. You're talking a 95 Metascore. That's huge.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
huge. Rotten Tomatoes, again, these are the two we just always share. Rotten Tomatoes, 94% from the critics, 85% from the audience, which I think should be a 90%,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
you know? 80s? No.
94, I like that score. That's pretty high. But I said to you after you raved about it, I said, I think it's Leo's best film.
And I said, yeah, I said the same
And
thing.
that's a
I
guy
would
that's
agree with
got a
that.
pretty nice resume.
Yeah, but it's also because of where he is in his own life, like the maturity
Right.
level where he is, right, as a
He couldn't
man.
have
And
played this character
no,
when he was younger.
no, no. Just to hear him talk about it, it's just he's really sort of just kind of almost this wise sage now. But we should talk a little bit more about the characters and the story. Leo plays a character named Bob Ferguson, one of the French 75. He's kind of this legendary revolutionist, or revolutionary, and he's what would you describe his role in the revolution? Like, what's his skill set that he's good at?
Oh God. See, I'm
He's
thinking of
he's
the
he works with
16.
explosives.
Right. Um, I'm thinking of the Jump Ahead because
Well,
it, you
before
know,
we get there, yeah. So
yeah,
so it starts out. I mean, the opening of the film is this group of revolutionaries swarming a detention center where they've got all of these immigrant workers or what have you, locked
right.
up in tents. And again, art imitating life, quite frankly, right?
Yeah, you
S-
can't help when you watch the beginning to think of what's going on right now.
Just pluck it right out of the headlines for today, for sure. So this is where you're introduced to Teyana Taylor's character, Perfidia Beverly Hills, right away. This whole group, quite frankly,
Mhm.
they 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 kind of take control of this and free these folks that are being detained. And there's this incredible encounter between Perfidia and Sergeant Lockjaw, played by Sean Penn, which actually is a foreshadowing of another part of the story. If you can
Yes.
you can you get into that a little bit?
Well, we find out that they kind of form a little bit of a relationship.
Speaking of Boogie Nights,
Yeah, even though they're on completely different sides of the law.
well, we find out that there's this exchange. He's sleeping. He's got like a bottle of booze behind him, and he's sleeping in a chair on this base camp or wherever they are, this
Right.
detention center. And she comes in the room and has him at gunpoint. And she's like, "Wake up, soldier boy." And they have this exchange. And he's got this massive erection. He's sitting there and she's got the gun on him. But
Well,
he's
he
like,
has it because she demands that he
well,
sh
he's
you know, sh
getting off on it though, too. And
yeah, I agree.
he's got a thing for black women, as you discover. And that's going to come in as a key thing as we get to the Christmas Adventurers Club, Mike, with the great Jim Downey, who we'll talk about from Saturday Night Live.
Shocked to see him.
And he was so good in
He
this.
was
But
good and,
uh, so, yeah, there's this exchange and this kind of, you don't really know. But when you get to like the latter part of the film, which you mentioned, there's this opening sequence, and then it cuts to 16 years later, and that's where we pick up with the characters, particularly Bob, and then also I think the sequence cuts on Chase Infiniti, her character Willa. We
yeah.
see her at karate class with
And
Sensei
and
Benicio del Toro.
during the by the way, there's a lot of humor in this film.
A lot of humor. Actually, let's pause there for a second because I just can't wait any longer.
Yeah.
This is the brilliance of Benicio del Toro in this film. It's very short, but this is really all you need to know.
All right, lift your shirt and turn around. Put your hands on top of your head.
He's doing like a dance.
Let's do this.
Do you have any weapons on you, sir?
No, sir.
Are you running from us?
Had a long day, man.
You didn't see the lights back there?
Oh, yes, I did.
I mean, it's if it doesn't remind you of Usual Suspects when we first met Benicio del Toro, basically.
Yeah.
And that was unscripted. That little jig that he's doing backwards to get handcuffed. It's nobody can do those quirky little things quite as good as he can. It's so peculiar.
There's another, and he's only in the movie for what, 12 minutes?
I suppose when you add it up, that's probably true. Yeah.
I was shocked when I read that.
Yeah.
And he's nominated. So,
well, Dame Judi Dench. I mean, we've
Correct.
talked about this on the show before.
Correct. It's
Right.
about quality, not quantity.
Right.
But there's also a sequence where him and Bob, which is, Leo's character, are on the run. And at one point, Bob looks at him and is like, Revolution!
Viva la revolution!
Viva! And he does it back to him. And I swear it was a Wes Anderson directed.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been in several Wes Anderson films.
Yeah, it's just this very kind of peculiar, quirky, odd sort of thing. And he does it silently. Benicio does it back to him silently as he's going down this like trap door. It's you have to see it, folks. It's so ridiculously silly.
To point out, you were talking about the scene between Teyana Taylor and Sean Penn. We don't know if they had sex or not. They're teasing it with each other, but we don't know that whether or not that was something that happened.
Yeah, but that becomes a very central storyline as when it comes to Chase Infiniti's character Willa, Bob's daughter, right? Because there's this whole thing that goes on about,
and
is
Bob
it
is
Bob's
with
daughter,
right? Bob is with Teyana Taylor's character. They're a couple.
Correct. Right from the very beginning.
From the beginning.
Exactly. But what's interesting is all of the characters, and the cast talks about this a lot. If you watch any of the interviews with them, there's all of these kind of very significant themes going on. We talked about the immigration, the detention stuff that you see in the beginning and kind of throughout. But there's, from start to finish, there's this kind of just human element to the story, and it's like 3 acts basically that we're following. And what Paul Thomas Anderson does in the writing, in a lot of ways, Mike, for example, it's about a father-daughter relationship between Leo and Willa,
right?
Bob and Willa, right? That's between Leo's character and Teyana Taylor's character,
because very early in the film, she gets picked up during a bank robbery.
She's only in like the first 30 minutes of the film. And the runtime's like 2 hours and 41 minutes. Now, I will say it does not feel like it. This goes by in a flash because of how good it is.
We're the first to complain about a movie that's too long.
Right.
But this, had stuff it needed to breathe. And there was, like you said, it's 3 acts and they're very distinct from each other.
Yeah. So you have the father-daughter thing going on with them. You've got Teyana Taylor's character, Perfidia. You've got some other funny characters in there, like Jungle Pussy, and there's some great character names in this film. And Sean Penn, when we learn more about him, he is looking to become part of this group called the Christmas Adventurers Club. We mentioned Jim Downey. For those that don't know, Jim Downey is a legendary writer with Saturday Night Live and was in one of the best SNL skits of all time. Do you remember the making change at the bank?
I was just going to say, if you want 10 dimes, we'll give you 10 dimes. You want 20 nickels?
What was the setup, though? Do you remember the context?
The whole point was like, we give change. Like, you want change for $1? You want 4 quarters?
Right.
That was like that.
That was like their bank's niche that they found.
Right.
To do right. And he basically is playing that character in this film. I swear.
Yeah.
I swear.
Yeah.
But it's this club, again, they go by Christmas Adventurers, and that's very intentional. There's all of this symbolism and this kind of it's basically about racial purification is what we're
Right.
talking
It's
about
a white
here.
supremacist group.
White supremacist group. And they've got like this meeting location and they had this elaborate tunnel system but beneath, ironically, an African American woman's house.
Right.
Do you notice that? There's a sequence where one of the characters comes in for a meeting, right? He's summoned and he comes in, he goes down this tunnel system, and there they are. And I love, Mike, there's this line, Jim Downey's there, and he's welcoming this guy into the meeting. And we'll just call the guy a bounty hunter, basically, is what he ends up being, because he's in that car chase that we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a throwaway line, but Jim Downey is talking about, Phil couldn't be here. And then he says, Virgil's down. Virgil, he's down from cleansing and distortion. like he's down from accounting, like these are the names of the departments. Right. It's so insane.
You got to point out Tony Goldwyn.
Tony Goldwyn, folks would know Tony Goldwyn, I would assume mostly from Ghost, right? He was in Ghost with Patrick Swayze.
He's been in a ton of stuff.
Ton of things, but that's like the thing that is burning your brain from Ghost.
And he's part of that Metro Goldwyn Mayer family.
What is it again? You said Metro
Goldwyn Mayer.
Metro Goldwyn Mayer. Okay. Just say MGM.
Yeah, MGM.
There's a name
you like to tag me every time I mispronounce something.
Well, there's a name that's making me think of, and I can't get it right now. Maybe it'll come to me later. But yeah, he's a scary character in this film.
Now, do you know the mansion that they show that is the Christmas Adventurers Club? Whose house that was?
No.
And I think this is just coincidence, I hope. It's Ronald Reagan's old house.
Wow. Beautiful ranch. I'll say that. There's also a guy named James Raderman, I think is his name. He plays a character named Danvers. He's like one of the military guys who they bring in to chase down Bob. He's basically tracking Bob. And this guy, I don't know if you know, he's former law enforcement, like FBI, Secret Service, whatever. Great on screen. Does a great job in the role.
Yes.
A pretty significant role, too. You mentioned a lot of humor in it. There's so many things. There's one scene where Bob gets tased, and Leo just does, as soon as the electrodes or whatever hit him, he just kind of does this move and plops over. It's like, there's so many little moments like that throughout that are just silly in what is a very dark film overall.
Right.
But here's one thing that stood out to me is we talk about the relationships that are going on that we're seeing. And I think to me anyways, one of the common threads with all the characters is they're all committed to their own ideals, like whatever it is, right? Like Sean Penn is just deeply committed to getting into this Christmas Adventurers Club because
his dream.
It's his dream, and it's this status symbol, and he would have an identity because you can tell this guy's just nothing but a loser, just kind of wacko loser.
Right.
And obviously the revolutionists, Bob and all of them, and Willa in her own way too. Even though I think, we find that she's just as committed to the cause as anybody else. Because I don't know if you found this when you first watched the film, but did you get the sense that when we meet her early on, she's kind of resisting this whole thing, this whole ideal that they're standing for?
Her first sequence is the karate sequence, isn't it?
Yeah, but okay,
Benicio.
self-defense, young woman, protecting herself, whatever.
I didn't pick up on that, to be
the way that,
honest.
there's an early sequence between her and Bob, and she's going to a dance at her high school.
Oh, yes,
definitely. And it's like, doesn't it feel like she's kind of like against it?
Right. He won't let her have a cell phone, all these things, and she's kind of being like a 16-year-old, like just against everything. But I get.
She doesn't get a chance to do it because of that. But so I don't know if it was always there or if that is something that evolved within her as it went, given the ordeal she goes through. And again, we won't get too deep into that and give anything away, but um, yeah, I don't know. It just she played it so well. Again, we said this is her first feature film, and now is she nominated for Best Supporting Actress
I don't think she was, no.
or Best Actress for that matter? Um, this was something else I wrote down. 'Cause it was another one of the funny things where you talked about Benicio earlier in that scene where "Viva la Revolution,"
Yeah.
and him and Leo Bob are in the car, kind of trying to get Bob like hidden or whatever, take him to a safe house or something. And Benicio, we see, is part of the revolution as well because he's got this whole like apartment building that he owns or something where he's hiding all of these immigrants, these illegal, right? And he says to Bob, "Yeah, I've got a little Latino Harriet Tubman situation going on."
Yeah, like he's trucking them.
Yes.
That's what I got from Benicio is he's got his own separate thing
Uh-huh.
going on
Yeah.
compared to Bob, which is, specifically. And then
Right.
in his later years, Bob is like just smoking pot nonstop.
He's so stoned all the time and you wouldn't, I mean, Leo plays it so well, you'd think he was getting stoned on the set, right?
Do you remember me mentioning to you there was one
Yes.
sequence with him and Willa, and the smoke is just constantly streaming? Like that was CGI. I was
It was?
disappointed to find that out, but yeah, it's
W
the only
well,
like special effects show.
I wonder if you're talking about the one towards the end of the film because at that point he's vaping. So he's just
Right.
vaping
It was
and
the
it's
vape one.
yeah, and it's streaming. Oh, that's interesting that that
Yeah.
was CGI. I would have never guessed that. What a
Me
weird
either. It
placement
looks
of
so
that.
natural.
That is so weird. But yeah, you mentioned Benicio again, committed to his own sort of cause. It's kind of all relevant and related, but he's off doing his own thing. Very loyal. I kept wondering, is he gonna turn on Bob? I wasn't quite sure, but turns out he's like, I mean, look, he gets locked up as a result
That
of it. He gets
sequence you
arrested.
showed, that clip
Yeah.
you showed is him basically taking a hit for Bob.
That's right. That's right. So, what was it that stood out to you when you first, because you did from the beginning, you were talking about, I wouldn't say you tipped your hand in the way that I did, but you clearly liked the film. But were you struck right from the jump when you watched it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And part of it, and again, I'm gonna give my age away here, is you've seen 12 Angry Men, right? Sidney Lumet movie.
One of your
He did a
favorites.
movie called Running on Empty,
Mm.
and if you see that film, you'll think of this film.
Was Leo in that film?
No, 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 this is an
Okay.
older film,
What am I thinking of?
and and Paul Thomas Anderson is asked about, "Hey, did you lift this?" I
Uh-huh.
mean, literally, somebody thought he plagiarized it. He's like, "No, it was an influence," but, they're very different, but
Yeah.
about the same kind of thing. There's a cause and, the way it's played out.
Yeah, that's
So that
I
was
don't
in my head while I was watching it. I'm like, because I like that film, and I'm like, "Wow, this is very much like that."
listen, it isn't, I mean, you want to see the films do well now. It's worldwide. It's done $200+ million. I don't know if you call that a successful film based on the budget. And maybe it is because this would be one where I can't imagine the budget goes much beyond that in terms of the marketing. It wasn't like there was this huge
Well, we know
marketing
Leo
campaign.
got 25.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, Leo, yeah, he's doing fine there. But I don't know. I think it's there's so much going on in the film. It's again very layered, and so it's there's a lot of stuff going on. But that human element, the relationships, I almost was more captivated by that than I was this kind of overarching story about the revolutionaries and their mission and what they're trying to accomplish. That whole Christmas Adventurers Club was just so creepy and disturbing, and sadly to say that, like, again, reality, Like
Right.
that stuff goes on.
Right.
We talked about some similar things when we did the Eyes Wide Shut review. Remember we were talking about some of the things
The
again,
elitist.
art imitating life, and
Yeah.
sex trafficking, and all these things that are in the news now that are being seen in these films. But I just wonder about your earlier point with the success of the films versus the cost. And P.T. Anderson, again, adding to the fact, as you mentioned, most people probably like me even, oh yeah, I forgot, or I forget that he did Phantom Thread, and I forget you mentioned
Yeah.
Licorice Pizza. Like that one didn't stand out. What do you think it is about that or his films that he's not a Scorsese level name?
Yeah, I don't know why. Especially with, the one I talked about that he started with, which starred
Hard
John
Eight.
C. Reilly and Hard
Yeah.
Eight.
Yeah.
That was such a great way to introduce yourself to the
And
community.
who's the other actor we always talk about, that
Oh,
was
the
in the
guy, he was on Seinfeld. He played
correct.
Mr. Bookman.
Yes.
He has
F
he has 3
I know
names.
you wanna say like Philip Seymour Hoffman, but
Exactly, it's like that
it's
name.
one of
Oh,
those.
Philip Baker Hall.
I knew when I said Philip, you'd get it. There you go.
Thank you.
Great actor, great actor. Yeah, this is, I don't know. So that's kind of an interesting, like, he's revered. He's obviously an incredible director and
Yeah.
writer,
Yeah.
and this film is
This is the most
fantastic.
humor I've seen in a film done by him.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
okay. Even Boogie Nights and
Yeah, Boogie Nights to a certain
Licorice
degree, but
Pizza,
that
maybe.
was more drama.
Yeah, yeah.
I think Burt Reynolds adds some humor to it, but this one had kinda like almost laugh out loud moments.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I don't want to, you can't overstate the beauty of the score from Johnny Greenwood. Now, Johnny Greenwood, a lot of folks might know, he's the lead guitarist for the band Radiohead. So he's a
Right.
very accomplished, highly respected musician, multi-instrumental musician, very talented. And really, for a long time, you think about it, what comes to mind when you think composer? You think Danny Elfman, John Williams, Hans Zimmer, so forth and so on. Johnny Greenwood is starting to get into that caliber because, as a matter of fact, he did There Will Be Blood. And
Wow.
if you go back and you listen to There Will Be Blood, and you can hear some similar tones and things that he brings to these compositions. He also did, Mike, he scored a film that you and I reviewed on the podcast, The Power of the Dog, with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Which is coming to Criterion. No,
And
it's out on Criterion already.
which I'll be picking that up.
Yeah, it's a great one.
But Johnny Greenwood, again, this is one where, okay, sometimes the score comes and goes unnoticed, whatever, but the score is very important here. You talk about the chase scene itself. I mean, if you take the score out of that, that doesn't have nearly the same impact that it does with
Yeah, I think
that
you
score.
miss some of the suspense and
Yes.
the way it's shot, the way the cars come in and out of frame.
Well, you said the rolling river
Yeah.
of hills or whatever it is.
River of Hills.
The
yeah.
River of Hills. Yes, and from the very beginning, the opening shot, you start hearing this kind of dissonant piano that score that Greenwood puts together, and it really does add to the tension throughout,
Yeah.
and also the comedy. I think in a way, some of the comedic scenes.
And I don't know of a film as you can juxtapose position 2 sequences
Yeah,
and say those are from the same film, and you'll be like, "What?"
yeah,
One
right.
where you're laughing and one where you're like,
Yeah.
just stunned.
And I don't know. I mean, I guess if I go back and think about the trailer, but you remember it was just like, what is this? Like, there's that shot of, and here's a great use of the VistaVision, is a shot of Teyana Taylor as Perfidia. She's pregnant. She's like 9 months pregnant, and she's firing this assault rifle like out in a field, and it's this beautiful shot, but it's just so absurd an image.
And then it cuts to her not being pregnant, but we find out it's Willa
Yes.
shooting
Yes.
the
Yeah.
rifle.
And that comes into play later on in the film, actually. So I loved it. It's a great film. I highly recommend if you've got HBO Max. This is a no-brainer for a streaming film.
This is likely going to win. I think.
Well, the more we review, the more I'm like, geez, this is a tough year.
It is a tough year.
Now, the 10 nominees is it's still a silly thing. It should be 5 and that's it.
Yep.
But yeah, it's and we still have a handful to watch and review on the podcast. So
yeah, and I think I've seen 7 out of 10. And right now, this would be the one I would bet on.
Well, be careful what you say there. You know, we've got other episodes coming up here we got to think about. But yeah, and so you know, again, you talk about this one, Begonia, Sinners, F1. I was more critical. I don't see that in the league with these others. Quite frankly,
I think it's a great film, but I don't think it's best picture.
I don't think it's a great film personally. But
I have to give you my. They would have been cast.
Please.
Okay.
So
for Bob, I'm just going to give you 2. Bob, Joaquin Phoenix.
Wow. See, yeah, of course I can see
Could have done it.
He could have done it. Absolutely.
For Lockjaw, this is the one you're going to say, no way.
Wow.
Viggo Mortensen.
Wow. Well, certainly he could pull it off, but geez, I really would have liked to have seen what Viggo could have brought to this because he's a fantastic actor. He is. But Sean Penn leaves an impression with this character that you just cannot ever forget. This is a testament, right? And again, it's because it's Sean Penn. I'm sorry, but he's one of our greatest actors. And he doesn't love to be on the mic in interviews, that's for sure. He's just seems like he's a much more private guy. But in fact, I'm surprised at how much press he does for these films these days. I think he's kind of mellowed a little bit in his older age, you know?
Yeah, and he'll still light up a cigarette on the Tonight Show.
Yes, absolutely. But this is a character that you'll remember. You know, you think of Nicholson and A Few Good Men, and I mean, there's just so many characters that are just left this indelible print in your mind. And Sergeant Lockjaw is one of them.
Is it the writing or is it Sean Penn? Probably a combination of both.
It's a combination of both. It's certainly the writing, and Sean Penn speaks to that too in some of these interviews that I watched. But it's Sean Penn's interpretation of how to take that writing and then, you know, give it to you in his performance, right?
Never did I think when I saw him playing a surfer that he would turn out to be the guy from, what's the Clint Eastwood film that he won the Oscar for? Mystic River.
Mystic River, yeah.
I mean, did you see the guy playing the surfer playing that role or playing this role?
Well, no. I didn't see that, but I knew early on because we will do it on the podcast. We're going to do a deep dive into the film At Close Range with Sean Penn and Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
I haven't picked up that, you know, special edition that you have. I need to, but I just wasn't willing to fork out the money.
Yeah,
but it is worth it, though. It is worth it. But yeah, he's great. The whole cast is phenomenal. Regina Hall, I mentioned, and there are others, but it's just a stellar cast, incredible writing, phenomenal directing, a great score. There you go.
I think this is Paul Thomas Anderson's year. I just think it's his year.
I would love to see that. Yeah, I would love to see that and for him to bring that home. But the competition is steep this year, as it turns out.
It is steep.
Yeah.
But there will be blood. What did it lose to? No Country for Old Men.
Yeah, you got that that was one of your throwaway answers in the trivia episode we did just a while back.
That's right. That's right. I got the year right.
You did.
I mean, look at that. Picking between those two.
Yeah.
We got kind of the same scenario here where there's like 3.
Yeah,
you could pick.
I'm glad. I mean, it makes me want to tune into the show this year. So
especially with Conan doing it.
Absolutely. Yeah. We love Conan. And we've got other reasons, but we won't talk about that now. So Well, anything else to say about One Battle After Another, Mike? You've been a big PTA fan for quite some time.
I have from the first time I saw Hard Eight. I
Yeah.
was on board with this guy. I thought, yeah, this guy can direct.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a good one. So highly recommended here from the Oh Brother podcast. There you go. One Battle After Another, currently streaming on HBO Max. The Oh Brother Oscar nominated Best Picture films that we're rolling on with them. And so we'll be back with another episode reviewing another Oscar nominated film. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Oh Brother podcast. Mike, I've been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith. And we will see you next time.
Bye, everyone.